we go. We're back. Thanks so much for the boomers that have been trolling me via the text. I really appreciate it. I would like to point out that anytime you troll, you give me more fuel. I'd like to, but some of them is fair. Like, that's your opinion. Like, we've got one here. So you can't be an old rich white prick, but it's okay to be a rich old black prick. No, if he was Māori or whatever, I'd say he was the same thing, 100%. And then we've also got a little bit more race coming up. I love these boomer texts. Honestly, boomers, if you're trolling about my feedback on calling him what I did, feel free to have a conversation. I'd love to have an open corridor about it, and we can talk about the topics of the issues. The issue I've had here is that male in leadership should not be like that. Anyway, thanks so much, team. Appreciate that. All right, time for Learn, Share, Repeat. Ben Rose is the Chief Commercial Officer at Code HQ and the host of the NZ Sales and Marketing Insider podcast. How are you, my friend?
Very well, thank you. How you doing?
Hey, okay. I hope the Saturday is scrolling along sweet for you. What have you been up to? How's the day bubbling?
Look, we've been ready for Mother's Day, so I can't say too much because there might be someone listening to this, but it's going to be pretty epic.
Oh, there you go. I mean, you hyped that you were going to be on the show earlier today on LinkedIn, so I'm sure they might be listening. So you better make sure the present is epic in all time.
Of course. But after being married this long, you know what to do, right?
Yeah. If you don't make it epic, you'll be on the couch. So learn, share, repeat. The section of this is pretty simple. We talk to people who are smarter than myself. We figure out, what do they listen to? Where are they learning from? What type of content are they consuming where? And the key thing with that is, where are they learning the most from right now? So, Mr. Ben Rose, you live in this sales and marketing space on all sorts of bits and pieces. Right now, what are you listening and learning from?
So I listen to a lot of podcasts from overseas. So Diary of the CEO with Stephen Bartlett's awesome. There are a lot of podcasts that talk about business kind of generally overseas. But not a huge amount that does it locally. The spin-off business is boring, does it pretty well, but I sort of felt there was a bit of a gap for a sales and marketing podcast and a tech podcast. So I started a couple of those, one personally and one through Code HQ where I work.
There you go. So let's maybe jump into let's go Diary of the CEO for a second. So this is Stephen from England, right? The young buck that
that's right.
So IPO'd his company. Go for it.
He founded a global marketing agency, so he knows everyone. He's pretty incredible. Very, very focused on going really deep with his guests. So one of the best interviews I heard was with Piers Morgan, believe it or not, and he just really got down into what drives you, what's made you who you are, how do you feel when people respond the way they do to some of the things you say, what's your philosophy, and just goes really, really deep. So there are some really good episodes on there. But again, a bit generic and sometimes a bit hard to apply in our context.
So going local for a second, you've obviously lived in the sales and marketing space for a bit. And with the podcast itself, what's the biggest insights that you've been getting revealed around the local market when it comes to sales and marketing? What's been sort of popping out that you potentially wouldn't have thought of before?
So the coolest thing I think about New Zealand is you can get to anybody pretty quickly. So if you know how to use LinkedIn, you can send a message to pretty much anyone. So the caliber of people who have been able to get on the show has blown me away because people really want to share, and they people have got lots of value to share. And it's if you send the message and you ask, people are pretty generous with their time. So we've had Paula Bennett on there, Kevin Kenrick, Saray Avery. Brianne West, some really, really awesome people. Peter Cullinane. So some of the key learnings, I think, in the New Zealand context, one of them, and it came out when I spoke to Peter Cullinane, is the power of relationships, but being really deliberate about when you work with an incredible person, making sure you keep that relationship and you look out for them and you work again with them and you keep in contact with them. And it's by joining with really good people at the right time that you get some incredible success. So he spoke about, an example was he founded Lewis Creamery, and he spoke about the chocolate milk episode. So if you remember back when they launched chocolate milk with Whittaker's, it was madness. There were security guards in supermarkets and they were chartering planes to fly chocolate powder in. It was just crazy. And so we spoke about that, and he was having lunch with founders of Farrow, and they said, you know what would be really cool? Be really good if you guys did a really premium chocolate milk. So after that meeting, he picks up the phone to his friend, Holly Whitaker, who he's worked with in the past, and he kept in touch with her and made sure that they, had a relationship. Holly, it turns out, had just invested in a machine that could mix powdered milk into milk, powdered chocolate into milk. And before you know it, a few weeks later, they're on shelves. So, power of relationships is the key thing I think that comes through a lot of those speakers.
Well, it's also the speed to execution after the barrier of trust is already done, right? And I think you're exactly right. I always talk about long game and chess, not checkers, but so many of the short-term transactional relationships, the way people are thinking about, deals or hustles or bits and pieces, it's never sustainable for the long term because there's no depth of the emotion to the person for actually caring about them and what they want to actually try and genuinely help them for the long term. And what I've found is, and I've been playing this game for 20 years now already. I'm only 36, but the craziest thing is say within, sales and marketing world or agency landscape, within a 5 to 10 year period, within 5 years, everyone knows everyone anyway. Within 10 years, you've already worked pretty much with everyone in the whole ecosystem anyway. And as soon as you come around to that next deal or the next thing, it's just one conversation to say, oh, I actually know them. Yeah, they're awesome. Boom, done, next. And you get straight to execution. So that's so awesome that he actually pulled that up, because I think so many people play the strategic game of power short term to the transactional checkers move instead of actually the long game with the actual relationships with the people, because they could switch industries and go to something else. That's really insightful, right? It's good.
What I love about the size of New Zealand and the size of New Zealand business is that if you're good, everybody will know you're good. But also, if you're bad, everyone will know that quickly too. So there's no, when you're in the UK, to work in London, you could stiff someone and you will never come across that person again. In New Zealand, if you do a good job or a bad job with someone, chances are at some point in the next few years, you're going to face them across the table and either be pleased you did a good job or wish you'd done a better one. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, totally agree. So if people want to check out the podcast, where can they go to? What can they do? What's the best place to get it?
So the Sales and Marketing Podcast, go to podcasts.nz and you will see that our link is there on the page.
Oh, there you go. That was easy. And then the other one was Diary of a CEO. Now, is that a YouTube channel as well, or is that a podcast? Because I've seen some videos for that. It's
a podcast, but he does video as well at the same time. So I think you can access it on YouTube.
Yeah, there you go. Well, appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much. You've always get good to chat, and I hope the rest of the weekend goes well. And no pressure, but you've now pre-claimed how epic this present for wife is going to be. So I'll be checking in tomorrow to make sure you didn't get on the couch.
Awesome. All right. Catch you, mate. See you later.
Shot, brother. There you go. Mr. Ben Rose, the Chief Commercial Officer at Code HQ and also the host of the NZ Sales and Marketing Insider podcast, which is cool. Some great feedback coming through. One of them was, hey there, I'm a stale white boomer female and your comments were exactly spot on. Jen. There you go. Hey, thanks, Jen.